Founded in 1978, the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASUU, has faced many challenges, from funding to salaries, academic freedom, the brain drain, and also the survival of universities. We can't take out the fact that it's been over 44 years and we keep having strike action. What is the problem? What is going on? Why is there no middle conversation going on between the ASUU and the federal government? Well, today we're going to be highlighting all these issues, and probably we can bring an end to this crisis. This is the Amina Atairu show. On the show today, we have Dr. Dele Ashiru. He is the ASUU Chairman of University of Lagos. Thank you for having us.
Thank you for coming. It's my pleasure to receive you.
Thank you. It's been 44 years. I mean, I'm just coming into the school premises. I saw that it was fully deserted, I must say. No student, no activities, and all. We've been fighting for the same thing. It's been over 4 decades. So why are we still here?
Well, we are here because we have a ruling elite whose interests in the education of the Nigerian citizens is not a primary concern to them. It is often said that no society can rise above its level of educational development. And true to type, if you cast your mind back when Nigeria took more than a passing interest in the education sector, Nigeria fared better. But today, when we treat education and those in that sector with all kinds of levity, we can see how our society is today.
So is it a matter of the salaries not being fully paid, or an increase in the salary, or is just ASUU just wanting to control, its own payment scheme, talking about UTAS now and the IPPIS?
Well, you see, ASUU strikes are usually not about salaries.
Okay.
And this particular strike is not an exception. We often embark on strike when it becomes obvious that we are talking to, a ruling elite that appears deaf. The crux of the matter is that in 2009, there was an agreement between the federal government and our union. That agreement had 4 cardinal principles, pillars. The first is condition of service. It is the belief of our union that there's a relationship between the conditions of service of those who teach in the university and the end product, that is the students that we graduate from the university. The second on that agreement is what we call funding for revitalization of public universities.
Okay.
The third is university autonomy and academic freedom. And the fourth pillar of that agreement, is what we call other matters related, to the 3 that I have enumerated above.
Okay.
Now, let me try to break this
point,
yeah. When we talk about conditions of service, the implication of the failure of government to renegotiate the 2009 agreement is that lecturers in public universities in Nigeria have been receiving the same salary in the last 13 years. And if you do a cursory, analysis, you'll find out that the cost of a bag of rice in 2009 is almost quadruple, today.
True.
The price of fuel in 2009 and
different.
today. So if you make a comparison, you find out that university teachers have been the one subsidizing, tertiary education in Nigeria. Now, when we talk about funding for revitalization, what we are simply talking about, as you move around campus, you find out that I graduated from the University of Lagos, for example. That classroom I sat with only about 35 students. is the same classroom housing more than 250 students today. So our union believes that both lecturers and students are partners in the business of knowledge production.
Yes.
And it is only when students learn under a conducive learning environment that they can be responsible citizens of this country. And that's why we kept holding government, responsible and accountable to funding infrastructure, in public universities in Nigeria.
Okay.
Now, when we talk about university autonomy and academic freedom, this is what we have fought for since 1978.
Yeah.
And this government, the Buhari regime, has done much more to erode university autonomy than any government in the history of Nigeria. I say this because of the forceful enrollment of our colleagues, university lecturers, on the now very discredited integrated personnel payroll and information system, IPPIS.
Okay.
You recall only recently, the head of the civil service of the Federation came out to say that they discovered 3,000 or thereabout ghost workers on the IPPIS platform. That tells you that our union is today vindicated. Because right from inception, we told Nigerians that IPPIS is a fraud. And that position had been, confirmed by the last Auditor General of the Federation report, which described IPPIS in very clear terms as a fraud.
Allow me to quickly take you before we finish, this area of IPPIS. You said the Buhari-led administration has tried to probably erode the educational system. Let's go back to the 80s. I recall that the Buhari-Idia administration, there was a protest between, of course, ASUU, the federal government, complaining about the same thing. I mean, how can we keep? Is it about this present administration not valuing education, or it is just ASUU not following through properly with their agitation?
Well, you see, the problem is ideological.
Okay.
It is ideological because irrespective of the government, whether civilian or military, the behavior had remained the same. And I say it's ideological because, you see, Nigeria is not an independent country. Nigeria is a dependent, parasitic neo-colony, such that majority of the policies that are often implemented in Nigeria are always received from outside Nigeria.
Yes.
And that's why after every election, the elected president must first go to either London or New York or Washington or wherever to pay allegiance and pay homage, to the masters who are still colonizing Nigeria, invincibly. So, the education policy, beginning from, the Buhari regime that you talked about, since then is when we have been told that university education is not for everybody.
Yes.
And that only those who can pay should receive university education. But our union had continued to resist that ideological frame. University education should be for all Nigerians who's endowed with requisite intelligence to be in the university.
But is it compulsory? Because if we look at the system of election, getting politicians to be appointed or elected into office, we find out that with your school certificates, you can actually get, a political position. So is it compulsory for us to actually have a university degree?
Well, politically, the Constitution says that you don't even need to pass CUSAT. All you need is to attempt.
Yes.
And we are all reaping the consequences of, such a mundane thinking that in the 21st century, all you need to do is attempt CUSAT, and then you can become the president of the country. But that's just one aspect of what we are talking about.
Okay.
The point actually is that You see, the university system is the last gate to society. And that is why no society can afford to toil with that, level of education. It is also that level where manpower, brains are developed for the society. And if you look at societies that are making progress today, it is consequent upon their huge investment in tertiary education.
Yes.
Because that's where you develop the critical mind that will solve the myriads of problems that you have in society. So if you treat that sector with levity, with disdain, in lackluster manner like the current ruling elites are doing, to the university system, then you will find a society like Nigeria where nothing works.
Now, you've had a lot of, strike action. We're still on strike as we speak. I mean, just a few days ago, a statement was released by ASUU that they're not planning to reopen the universities anytime soon. To what end, I may ask?
Well, you see, that statement is to the effect that government is not serious about resolving the issues. Since we declared the strike on the 14th of February,
yes,
2022, and all the bravado by government, the first meeting between our union and the newly constituted government team will be holding today. That shows that these universities are closed. It's not a priority to government. They are busy organizing party convention and thinking about who will take over from, the other in 2023. So they can't be bothered whether the universities are open or closed.
Or not.
But they do that at the society's peril. And that is why Nigerians must rise up to challenge, these ruining elites who can afford to keep universities closed and care less about whether the future, leaders of the country are at home or they are in school learning. So Nigerians also must decide, which direction, this country must follow.
Okay.
Moving forward from 2023.
While you were talking about Nigerians need to rise up, and face the challenge of the day, is it activism that would really put an end to this issue? And who is the person, in government we're really dealing with right now? Who? Because we'll have the Minister of Education. Is he in support of ASUU or against ASUU?
Well, you see, with the current state of Nigeria, we need a more conscious citizenry. So if you ask me, yes, activism will, instill in the ruling class, a sense of urgency to save this society from, the impending doom. And to the question as to who we are dealing with, well, we are dealing with the Minister of Education, who is directly responsible for tertiary education in the country. But now that we're on strike, it has also become a labor matter.
Yes.
So we're also dealing with the Minister of Labor and Productivity, and the Ministry of Education had set up what they call the government, renegotiating team, led by Professor Nimi Briggs. So that's also another layer of interface between our union, and government.
So, with what you just said, do we see cooperation from these people? Because I recall the last statement from the Labour Minister. He said that the Nigerian youths are unemployable. We practically have half-baked graduates. And he blamed, of course, the university system, for the issues that the Nigerian youths are facing. How do you address that issue?
He's kidding. Is he which university did he attend? Is it not outside Nigeria? He schooled here. Did he attend any university outside Nigeria? And this talk about graduates are not employable. They are not employable, but once they leave Nigeria, they are one of the best.
Yes.
Saudi Arabia is coming here to recruit doctors. I mean, people are living here. In Unilag alone, you can count several number of young, able, brilliant Nigerians doing wonders outside this country. So what we should ask is, what is it in Nigeria that destroys, this same youth? A minister who is not even familiar with his bit is talking about whether some people are employed. Is he employable?
Now, but if we look at it again, luckily, yes, he attended some Nigerian universities. But it seems that part of the reason why we're having this issue is because there is no patriotism from the side of the government and on the side of some Nigerian, lecturers, where we see that some of their children are schooling outside this country. I mean, we saw that recently with Ukraine, where a lot of students said they don't want to come back. They rather stay in a war-torn country than to return, to the academic system of Nigeria.
Having people school outside Nigeria is a mere symptom of a deeper malady. And the malady is the kind of political elites, the unpatriotic nature of those who are ruling us. ASUU is on strike, the president outside the country, the Minister of Education outside the country, the Minister of Labor outside the country, without any consideration for the development, of the Nigerian university system. If the Nigerian university system, were to be developed, certainly you won't find students in Ukraine and in all of those places. But now, just like every sector of the Nigerian economy and society, talk of hospitals, immediately they are sick, they know where to go, it's outside the country. When their children want to go to school, it's outside the country. Today, schooling outside the country is an added advantage to get some, juicy jobs that are reserved for their own children.
Yeah, and that is really frustrating.
So that's why, I said earlier, and I'm going to repeat it, Nigerians must take their destinies into their hands. They must ensure that only those with, patriotic, feelings for Nigerians and for Nigeria are the ones that are allowed to take over the affairs of this country. If we continue to have this set of people who have continued to recycle themselves, year in, year out, certainly there will be no end to the crisis in the education sector.
Let's look at the UTAS and the IPPIS saga, if you allow me to put it that way. The federal government believes that ASUU wants to pay itself, thereby enabling a lot of corrupt practices under it. Now, ASUU believes that IPPIS is also a very corrupt scheme. Now, when are we going to meet a middle ground? Where are we going to agree on the best scheme to apply?
Well, it's not that ASUU wants to pay itself. ASUU is only helping government to do what it cannot do. Government ostensibly, accepted IPPIS as a conditionality. For many Nigerians, they don't know that IPPIS is one of the conditions imposed by IMF World Bank so that Nigeria can get more loans. The argument is that there are so many ghost workers, government is spending so much, on salaries and emolument of workers, and that is resulting in corruption. So IMF World Bank solution is to put all Nigerian workers on a single payment platform, which they call IPPIS. But as we have seen, and admitted by government itself, IPPIS is a scam. It has failed. It is fraud. Not only that, the sovereignty of Nigeria is compromised under IPPIS. IPPIS database is in California.
Yes.
And Nigeria is paying huge sums of money to those who developed IPPIS. Now, how did we come to have UTAS? government threw a challenge to us when we rejected IPPIS.
Yes, I recall that.
And said, you are always good at criticism. Now that you say you don't want IPPIS, give us the one that you... And we told government within 6 months, we assembled the best of brains in information technology in Nigerian universities. Yeah. And within 6 months, we produced the University Transparency and Accountability Solution we call UTAS, which has been tested by NITDA.
Yes.
And by those who are going to use the software platform. And all of them have accepted UTAS as a payment platform that is more dynamic, more flexible,
indigenous,
more user-friendly, more indigenous, fully homegrown, and in terms of its database, is domiciled in Nigeria here, which is also a plus for the sovereignty of the country. But because, like I said earlier, we have a ruling elite that are not patriotic. So rather than NITDA supporting the initiative by ASUU, they are busy finding faults, and the DG, who neither attended any of the meetings nor read any of the reports presented to him, went to the Federal Executive Council meeting to say that UTAS had failed the integrity test. As I speak with you, UTAS scored 99.3% in the test conducted by NITDA itself. If you want the report, it's available here at the ASUU Secretariat. It's on my phone.
I would like to see
so, those who are put in leadership positions in Nigeria, heads of parastatals, ministries and agencies, should tell government the truth. They should desist from playing politics with the future of Nigerians and the Nigerian state.
So how long, I mean, looking at everything that you've explained, how long do ASUU intend to carry on the strike for? I mean, looking at the response from the Nigerian student, I'm talking about people still in school, final year students, people just gaining admission and all, the loss of interest, from them. How long is this going to, span for?
There's loss of interest even in the country called Nigeria. But let me tell you, and this will shock you, this strike is in the interest of Nigerian students. They have a choice. The choice is to prevail on us to stop what we are doing, and 75% of them will not be able to come back to this university.
Why?
Because government and its people are already talking about concessioning Nigerian universities. Privatizing the universities. When they privatize the university, how many of these our students can pay 500,000 naira or 750 that is being proposed to come back to the university?
But education, again, around the world is not cheap.
Yes. But why must it be that it is the people who are already overburdened that must pay? Yes, education is not free. But in serious societies, the rich are taxed so that the poor can go to school. In Germany, in Finland, even here in South Africa, I can count here more than 40 lecturers in this university, trained up to PhD level, free in South Africa. Who is paying it? And why must Nigeria copy the wrong things? Why can't we copy the right ones? So, and our union, as a union of intellectuals, has also put proposals before government on how to fund education adequately in Nigeria. So, it's not that we criticize a system without proffering solution. So, this strike is in the interest of our students. If you go around this university, in fact, opposite where we are holding this interview, there's a hall that has just been renovated, to a decent, comfortable, accommodation for students in this university. The money that was used to do that was consequent upon our strike in 2013. If you visit any lecture room and you see any equipment, any library or laboratory, you see any equipment, you inscribe tech fund or ETF or needs assessment, know that those are products of ASUU strike. And we are doing that so that students can receive education that are globally competitive. If we stop, holding government accountable and putting pressure on them, to fund education adequately in Nigeria, the consequence is that majority of these our students will have no public universities to go to. Where are public primary schools today?
No, they're in shambles.
Where are public secondary schools today? But for ASUU, public universities would have gone the way of this primary and secondary school. So as patriotic Nigerians and as, the conscience of the society, we will keep doing what we are doing because we understand that we have to do it in the overall good of the society.
Thank you very much, Dr. Dele Ashiru, ASUU Chairman, University of Lagos. As much as I would love to end this conversation. Now, the question I want to ask is, based on what you have been saying, activism, we need to push forward, we need to forge ahead and all. Do we need the likes of NAN, that's the National Association of Students, Nigerian Students? Do we need NLC? Do we need all those people to go on and embark on a nationwide protest on the streets of Nigeria? Or we need to sit down at the comfort of our homes, behind our keypads, and keep speaking?
Well, I think that we need everybody. We need, the mass of the people, market women, NANS, NLC. In the past, our union is an affiliate of the Nigerian Labour Congress.
Yes.
And we expected that, the Nigerian Labour Congress should also join in this struggle to save, the Nigerian university system. But unfortunately, we have not received that kind of, boost from the NLC. Pengassin, all hands must be on deck. This struggle is not ASUU struggle alone. This struggle is a struggle for Nigerians. It's a battle that Nigerians must fight and win, because to allow government to destroy the university system is to technically destroy Nigeria. And I just hope that Nigerians will quickly realize that and join us in the struggle.
How will this work? Because if you cast your mind back to, I think, the 80s or so, where ASUU was proscribed twice. They were banned. We remember the then president of ASUU, Professor Atairu was, according to research, tortured and arrested and tortured, for clamoring for this same thing that we're clamoring for today. Do we see that happening again, or we just have to give up on the system entirely?
We cannot give up. ASUU will not give up. ASUU is an ideological organization. ASUU understands the import of education in the development of any society. And that's why since 1978 till date, we have remained the only ideologically progressive union in Nigeria. And we have remained the only organization who holds government accountable, to its responsibility to its citizens. It is the responsibility of government to educate its citizens.
Yes.
And it is enshrined in the Nigerian Constitution. If you check, Section 2 of the Nigerian Constitution, it is clearly stated that government must educate Nigerians up to university level. But today, rather than do that, they take solace, in frivolities and ostentatious lifestyle that is antithetical to the realities, of the economic situation in Nigeria. So it is the responsibility of Nigerians to hold government accountable to the ground norm that established the Nigerian society.
Now, what are the solutions that ASUU has proffered to the federal government to be able to fund the educational system? Because the report right now is that the government is broke. And how can a broke government fund the MOU that was mentioned?
Which government is broke? A government that is, the most expensive in the world? A government that is borrowing to feed its ostentatious lifestyle? Only recently in Zamfara state, where bandits is almost overrunning the entire state, you know how many exotic cars were bought for
26 Cadillacs, actually.
The president only returned from the UK recently on medical tourism. The ministers, where are they? you know, the members of the House of Rep and the Senate, they should come clean with how much they earn. And even in austerity, they are still earning the same. So government is broke. They are sending $1 million to Afghanistan and building railway from Nigeria to Maradi. Is that government broke? The conviction of our union is that government will always find money for whatever it prioritizes. The point is that university education, and indeed the education of Nigerians, is not in their priority. Look at the budget of education. It's on the decline since President Muhammadu Buhari, and they hold Nigerians in contempt. He couldn't assure Nigerians of funding education. He went to London and he was, you know, deceiving them there that he will increase funding for education beginning from this year to some certain percentage. Has that materialized? The answer is no. Now, talking about solutions that we have proffered, Tech Fund, that is government's cash cow today, was the brainchild of our union. And like it's done in more, you know, serious societies. I told you earlier that the rich can be taxed, you know, to fund the education of the poor. Not only that, we suggested to government, if you do some transaction in Nigerian banks as we speak, you pay what they call stamp duty.
Yes.
What is government? Government should come and account, you know, for what they've been doing or they want to do with stamp duty money. The money is lying there fallow in the Central Bank of Nigeria. We advise government that that kind of money can be channeled judiciously to funding education.
Yes.
And the society will reap its benefit. Not only that, we make calls, you know, we suggested to government that from the profit that is made from making calls in Nigeria, a tiny percentage can be deducted to fund education. As we speak, companies' profit are taxed about 2%, just 2%, which accounts, I mean, for the magic that Tech Fund is doing in Nigerian universities. So we have given a number of proposals, but like I told you, if you talk about all of these sectors, who are the owners of those organizations? Is it not the same, you know, ruling elites who parade themselves as? So the interest to develop education, to fund education appropriately is not there. But they should take notice. Our union will continue to insist that it is the responsibility of government to educate its citizens. And when citizens are properly educated, it is difficult to oppress them, it is difficult to cheat them, it is difficult to misrule them. And that is why our union is drawing a parallel between the deliberate destruction of education and government's desire to continue to oppress, intimidate, and harass Nigerians. But our union will not accept that.
So when would this strike come to an end?
This strike will come to an end when government is willing and ready to renegotiate the 2009 agreement and commence its implementation. I told you earlier, a group of intellectuals, the highest paid professor in Nigeria earns less than 500,000 naira, which is less than $1,000 in a month. And he's been on that same salary since 2009 till date. And then a minister will sit down somewhere and say that some people are unemployable or they are employable. So we are ready for once to make government do the right thing. The right thing is to renegotiate that agreement and pay a competitive wage for those who teach in the universities, as well as funding the universities to produce globally competitive intellectuals. The Nigerian state is doing all it can to localize Nigerian universities, and we will not agree. Because if you hold a Bachelor of Science degree in whatever discipline in Nigeria, it is that same Bachelor of degree that is recognized all over the world. And there's a minimum quantum of knowledge that is expected for anybody who parades a certificate like that. So our union will continue to resist the localization of Nigerian universities. And one way to do that is to continue to insist that government must fund education and, you know, improve the conditions of service of those who teach in the universities. the greater danger that majority of us are not seeing today is that take a survey amongst those who are in Nigerian universities today. Ask any of those students we are teaching, how many of them will want to become lecturers tomorrow? Wow. You can't find anyone, or hardly can you find. So, where lies the future of university teaching in Nigeria if those that we are training and the best brains cannot aspire to take over from us? We took over from our teachers. And how would they want to? Somebody with a first degree and a master's degree to become an assistant lecturer. At the end of the month, you will pay him 116,000 and you expect a first-class student to accept that.
Of course not.
So that's a greater danger which...
But the question I want to ask right now, while we're coming to the end of the show, is ASUU as a body, do they all have their children attending the Nigerian universities? Do you have your child or any of your ward in the university in Nigeria?
Majority of us have our kids in the university. My daughter is in this university. This morning she saw me and she was asking me, "Oh, Daddy, you are still going for this your pursuance of your ASUU strike. When are we going to resume?" And I told her, your father cannot afford to send you to private universities where, how much do I earn in a month? To be able to send my children to, you know, these private universities. And government is licensing private universities every day. But you see, the bit about some lecturers' words schooling outside Nigeria, there are scholarships. Okay. So brilliant, young, ebullient Nigerian children, they can get scholarship, they can school abroad and all that. But I tell you, majority of our colleagues have their children, you know, schooling here. And
but if you had an alternative with your children schooling in Nigeria,
why not? I graduated here. My aspiration is that all my children will have first degree in Unilag. My wife graduated here, so I want a family. Look, it's only on patriotic Nigerians who will desire. Time was in Nigeria where UCH, LUT, etc. were the pride of the world. The Saudi Arabian government were coming to UCH to receive medical care. I came from England to take this job, so it's not about people who don't have options. And the thinking was, if I remain in England, who will develop Nigeria if all of us are abroad? So, and we are being sought after all over the world. So nobody should think that we are here because we don't have anywhere to go. Our colleagues are leaving. And that's the talk about brain drain. So the Nigerian government should put its ass together to realize that it has, you know, competent, intelligent, high-flying citizens in the academia. And if they continue in this manner, they will find out that, I mean, people will find their way out of this country and leave Nigeria as an empty shell, empty barrel, you know, with no any depth or any reasoning intellectually.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Dele Ashiru. This is more of a very heated one, and it's coming from a very patriotic Nigerian and a lecturer, and of course, Chairman, ASUU University of Lagos. Thank you very much. Of course, we hope to engage, you know, the regulatory bodies. I'm talking about the government right now on this issue to see when truly would this strike come to a final end. Would all the agitations from ASUU, of course, the Nigerian student, be met? Well, we'll find that out. If you have questions, please do well to join us. This is the Amina Atairu Show. Let's do this again next time. Stay tuned.